you so much for contributing. We really, as from a community point of view, we really love to hear about how different people are achieving and doing data management. I think we all learn and appreciate it very much. So thanks so much for what you're doing. And I like your slogan there to say the differences in the data. That's fantastic. All yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. So yeah, let me just have a quick introduction, a warm welcome from South Africa, Bloemfontein. I am Carol Viviers, all the way from MS Holdings, an associated manager in the clinical data management department, come with 15 plus years of the clinical data management experience. And I'm really excited and really enthusiastic to share my knowledge with you and just to make you as excited about our industry and what we offer in the industry of clinical data management. So yeah, I think it's perfect with me if you would like to ask some questions throughout the session, but you're also welcome to afterwards we can open up for more questions. So yeah, feel free. And yes, let's go through some of our points today. And let me just
Sorry, Carol.
no,
Sorry,
share.
sorry, Carol.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll actually monitor the chat.
Okay,
I'll
fantastic.
try to
Thank
find a good
you.
time to interrupt so you don't have to worry about jumping around. Thanks a lot.
Check that. That will be fantastic. Thank you so much, Howard. That's gonna help me a lot from my side. And let me just confirm everyone can see my screen. Great. Okay, so data management in the modern world. What will we be talking today on? Some of the abstract points I'll be taking on is just giving you some introduction to the drug development process and where MMAs or any of the CRO companies fit in to this process. Introducing you to meet some of our MMS team, who we work with, our functions that we work with, and elaborate on why clinical data management is the option and all the aspects on clinical data management, of course, and the points to consider to become part of this industry. MMS and the MMS Academy that offers opportunities in the clinical data management, and then always to remember to make the best decision for you. So I am going to unshare my video just to focus on the slides. Enjoy it. So introducing you to drug development. This process will take us in an overview on the process itself. We may be looking deeper into where we as the clinical data manager become part of this process. Firstly, what does drug discovery and drug development mean? Well, every drug must be identified, and once it's identified in this phase, it needs to pass through certain stages of approvals based on the data that is collected and the studies from point to point until it's reaching the market. The discovery is a phase of research where the target is identified or discovered and studies are performed to check the potential to become a drug. The development phase is the phase of research where the potential drug is studied for safety, efficacy, and performing non-clinical and clinical trials. At the discovery phase, it is selected, identified, and validated. Then it runs through the assay development process, which can be seen over here. Thousands of compounds may be potential candidates for the development as a medical treatment after early testing. However, only a small number of these compounds look promising and call for further study research. In block 3, we can see the vivo in vitro tests are carried out. An ADME prediction, meaning absorption, distribution, metabolism, and elimination of the compound is studied and predictions are laid out. A lead drug then can be considered as a candidate and declared as a preclinical study to start with. In the preclinical study area, studies are done on computer models or animals to test the efficacy and the safety of the candidate. After the sufficient data is collected that assures safety and efficacy, an investigational new drug application is filed, and after the approval, the clinical study can start. This is where the clinical data manager and all other clinical research departments like medical writing, pharmacovigilance, programming, and statistical programming comes into action. They all have different functions to play. We will take a little look at it a bit later. For phase 1, 2, 3 trials, these are the ones that we conduct in the clinical trial process. For example, let's take cancer as an example. A phase 1 trial tests if a new treatment is safe and look for the best way to give the treatment. A doctor also looks for signs that the cancer responds to new treatment. Phase 2 trials test if one type of cancer responds to the new treatment. Phase 3 trials test if new treatment is better than the standard treatment. And phase 4 trials are conducted to determine the long-term safety and effectiveness of this medication. Just for your information at this point as well, for the phase 4 trials, this is also called as our post-approval phase, where a new drug development is applied, and only after it is approved, the drug can be marketed, and then the phase 4 can be conducted. Okay, so this is something just for interest sake in the process of drug development. These steps can definitely vary from agency to agency. However, currently we're referring to the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, for products marketed in the United States. This is where we as a CRO fit into the picture of drug development. So we will be diving deeper into this area of clinical trials in a CRO. What is MMS's role or any CRO's role in this? Let me introduce you.
Carol, not sure if your video needs to have sound, but we can't hear your
Oh,
sound.
I actually did activate it. Oh no. It should
Dear.
have. No. I did activate it. Let me just quickly check. Thanks, Doreen. This is now quite interesting. I tested it as well.
Maybe you need to disconnect your screen and then reshare it and make sure. Sometimes it just goes funny.
Let's just quickly check it. Apologies for that.
Maybe whilst you're doing that,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question. I know we were all quite interested in the COVID testing, and just wondered if you were involved in some of the different drugs when relating to the COVID, the injections. Were you involved in some of that?
Do you want me to take this, Carol?
Yes, please, Doreen, feel free while I'm sorting the technology.
All right. So hi, everybody. I'm Doreen van Huyssteen. I'm Associate Director of Data Management at MMS. So we were involved in some COVID testing. We ran a few studies for the Gates Foundation in Cape Town. Stellenbosch was one. And it really, that study consisted of about 9 different arms. So different medications that we were testing for COVID. At the end of the day, it was investigational studies. So not the vaccine trials, not the big Moderna trial that was run here in South Africa. So although we were involved, it was on investigational level, investigator-led trials. Can everybody still hear me? Is it my connection?
I can hear you, Doreen,
Okay.
perfectly. Thanks for that.
Yes.
All right, are you ready to share again, Carol?
It's not giving my option that I'm looking for. I honestly don't know why it's not working.
Oh dear.
No.
So
Let me just
when you click on the share, Carol, just to
yeah,
check, when you click on the share, does it not have right on the top right hand corner include computer sound?
it does, and I did select that. So let me redo it, and
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah.
it's gonna allow me not, and hopefully it's gonna work this round. So I just quickly checked
Okay.
on all the other areas. So let's check. Holding thumbs. Here we go. Just first confirm you're able to see my computer screen. It's a blue
Yes, we
screen.
are.
Okay, holding thumbs. Here we go. Can you hear?
Yes, we're good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's me. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry. So I would love to introduce you to meet our team. In the clinical research organization, several service lines play a very important part together with the clinical data management team to ensure that we can complete the drug development process per the expectation. The medical writing and regulatory team developed the protocol for data management to start with, but also preparing the white paper that you might be finding in your medicine box. Thus, they are involved from the start until the end with the responsibilities. Statistical programming team, right at the right-hand side, they ensure that the data that they obtain from us from the clinical database can be prepared for the biostatistical team's review for the analysis. So the analysis will move back to the medical writing team for the preparation of that white paper that you find. And then, of course, the data management team. We receive the data from the sites, entered into the database to ensure that the data quality and cleanliness is prepared and ready for the patient's safety, keeping it our priority. Now let's look a little at the clinical trial flow and understand where does data management comes into act. The clinical operations, with all of the activities that are performed by these teams, the final goal is to collect the clinical data from the subjects that will be enrolled in the study at the site. But before clinical data management comes into action, the client, along with the monitoring team, look at the protocol development, the site selection, the patient safety, and what will be needed throughout the study flow, the patient enrollment, the regulatory requirements for the location and the sites that they'll be using. This draft protocol is then developed and circulated for review to different departments. The clinical data management then also receives the protocol for our review. The lead data manager, who will perform the leading activities in the study for data management, reviews the protocol and provides comments and feedback on it. The sites are selected with the help of monitors who visit the site to check the facility, the staff capability, and the capacity of the site, including other trial requirements as well. The project lead, who is the person who coordinates between all the study CRAs, the vendors, the internal task leads, the project managers, and the sponsor, of course. Once a client gets a rough idea on a protocol, IRB, investigator regulatory brochure approval dates, and the first patient first visit date is required. The data management then also alert the start of the study design and the build process. Although all through, the starting point of data management is after protocol finalization. Data management is involved in the protocol review, the start, understanding the trial requirements in perspective of the database design. Data management's final goal is to assure that the collected data is clean, complete, and validated. The cleanup and validation of data are a huge process carried out throughout the duration of the trial until the database is locked. The complete and validated data moves to the programming and the statistical departments. The final goal of stats is to analyze the data and provide it to the medical writing team to draft some documents, like the clinical study report, where a full analysis of the study is documented for submissions. The programming team helps the stats team to arrange the data in tables and listings that the sponsor team has finalized for the data comparison and their analysis as well. Upon completion, the documents move to the regulatory affairs and operations to consolidate it with the agency required documents. The regulatory team compiles all the files and put it into an agency expected format for filing the documents to agency for submission purposes. On the adjacent side, we have the pharmacovigilance over here. Throughout the process, they work from the start until the end and look after the safety of the subjects. They keep an eye on data throughout the study trial to ensure that the safety of the subject is not jeopardized. Any serious adverse events occurring in the study will go through the data and do the due diligence for safety of the subject. So an adverse event, in short, is really when someone experiences a condition, say a severe headache, and it's in such a case that it's life-threatening or the patient is being hospitalized with a high grade of severity, that becomes a safety aspect of the study, which we call an SAE, or a serious adverse event. Any AE or SAE is really monitored, and we also perform SAE reconciliation to ensure the safety of the study in pairing with the pharmacovigilance team. So this is actually how the entire clinical trial work. Any questions? Okay. So
yes, Carol. Sorry,
yes.
sorry, Karen. Yes. I did ask an earlier question in terms of
Yes.
The term programming. It seemed to be the same as data modeling, and I was just interested in terms of why it was referred to as programming, just from a data management point of view. Is there models that have been built, or are you? What's the programming side of it?
Carol, can I take this one for you?
You're welcome. Thank you, Doreen.
I
love it.
So we built a database based on C- standards. So CDISC is made up of C- and SDTM. So first we built the database based on C-, but in order for the FDA to accept a submission, it needs to be in SDTM format. So to match the two up, we have a programmer come in that takes the raw data and that models it into the SDTM format.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
If you wouldn't mind just explaining those acronyms. SDTM.
Okay, so CDISC, let me go look at that. So CDISC is basically the standard that the Food and Drug Association of America accepts. So it has to be in a certain format. And then the acronym for SDTM, I'm going to have to go look up, but that's basically what they call the format that it needs to go into.
Okay, so it sort of reminds me of in the banking environment, we use something called SDMX, which is the statistical data and metadata exchange.
There you go.
I'm assuming it's
that.
Okay.
That's SDTM.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Apologies for all the acronyms. We should actually get an acronyms list before we do any presentation, Carol.
I must say, Doreen, I've worked through them all, so I'm going to give it my absolute best in elaborating on everything. And I do apologize if any of the abbreviations is a little bit wrong side around. But yes, I think when we put it back into a little bit more live practice, that was quite a mouthful. If I can go back one, this is quite a mouthful in detail, but I am going to make it a little bit easier by just putting in where everything just fits into a live situation of a data management, and what is our focus and what we base our focus on. So I think this will also, from a data management perspective, make a little bit more sense in where everyone plays their part in the clinical data management. I think it boils down to data management being our basis, and I think the parts that's being played is all going to fit in very nicely in just making it a little bit easier to understand.
Thank you very much.
Carol, and just before you go on, I think basically what we do in layman's terms, we take the protocol for a study. So for any clinical study that comes in, we take that protocol and we then build a database so that, as you guys know, clinical studies are done globally, right? So you might have a site in Bloemfontein, a site in Europe, a site in America, and all of the data goes into a central place, and that would be data management. This would be us, and we build that database. We clean that database to make sure that we identify anywhere that a protocol deviation might have come in. We make sure we look for any outliers, so any SAEs, like Carol mentioned, any serious adverse events. And all of this data goes to data management, and we kind of clean the data, make sure it's consistent, and we then hand it over to programming for analysis, etc. So that is really the portion where we come into play, right? So we clean the data, we make sure that any serious adverse event that is reported also goes to pharmacovigilance, from where it is reported to the different ethics committees and review boards, so that if stopping rules are met, so in other words, if serious adverse events that are related to the drug is picked up, we can immediately stop a study, right? That type of thing is where we come in. So that's just my layman's terms of what data management is in the clinical setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Doreen.
And sorry, I really like that thing in terms of, it seems like you've got a well-defined set of quality rules that you have to adhere to.
Yeah.
It seems very important, those quality dimensions and rules. Do they follow the sort of quality dimensions that we find in something like the DMBOK in terms of consistency, accuracy, and then you seem to roll it up to a health type or drug type of set of quality measures?
Correct, yes. So we've got industry standards that we need to adhere to. There's also different ethics and like SACRA, our review board of South Africa. So each country has their own set of rules that you have to follow. And then dependent on where you want to market your drug, you also have to look at the international rules. So GDPR for Europe, for example.
Right.
So we've got different levels of quality that you need to go into, and then also different standards based on where you're going to market your product.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doreen. Yeah, very, very very informative information, and definitely something that we value in our industry is to ensure patient safety. And yeah, I think that's one of the forms that's being looked at most in the clinical trial is the adverse event medications that the patient is taking, but also what the patient's history is that they come with to make sure that the patient safety is our first priority at all times. So yes, we are focused.
Sorry, Doreen.
Welcome.
We have a very special guest called JG. He's just asked a question. He asked, does MMS have a role in off-label use that a drug? Sorry, JJ, I'm not sure whether I'm doing this any justice. I'm not sure if I'm missing some of the pronunciation. You got a drug question.
Yeah, sorry, Howard. It was just badly expressed. But when an off-label use is found for a drug, does the clinical trial that you had oversight of get augmented or like?
Yes. Yes. So what we look for when we say adverse event, it could be positive or negative, right? So when we look at an adverse event, it might be an adverse event where, I don't know, you lose your appetite, but at the end of the day, the drug might actually work to suppress appetite as a dietary supplement. So we don't just look when we do a study, any adverse event. So a positive effect or a negative effect is assessed. And based on that, that little leaflet that you get in your package insert, we update that. But if there is a new off-label use that is discovered later in time, we would go back, they would look if the study data did support it. So going back to the phase 1, the phase 2, the phase 3 study. And then based on that, the actual package insert will be updated. So it has to be approved first, of course, by the regulatory authorities. And then the package inserts will also be updated.
Great, thanks so much for that. I get it. So adverse is relative to the current trial, not necessarily positive or negative. Okay, thank you so much.
Exactly. So adverse meaning it's something that we didn't expect. So it could be positive or negative. We're looking at both ends.
Great, thanks so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the engagement and the questions. Great questions. So we are a focused clinical data management location in South Africa, but also in India and in the US. So let's see, what is clinical data management? First of all, what is the objective of a clinical trial? The objective of a trial is to assess the safety and effectiveness of the product, which is mostly the drug or a device, to support regulatory submissions for the marketing purposes. So yes, it's a drug or a device. And what is exactly the clinical data manager's role then in this objective? Well, clinical data management plays the role of managing all the aspects of clinical data collection and distributing to achieve the above goal. So each role of the clinical data manager is to data management provides input into the selection and the development of the data collections that are the best suited for the clinical trial protocol. We ensure that the clinical trial data are collected, validated, completed as per the requirements. We build the database and transfer data across to where it is needed for the reviews and for analysis, but also leads the effort of collecting the data from different vendors in timely manner. So vendors is being referred to as the labs. For example, if there's lab tests that's been performed and the lab results will go to a lab apart from the site, they are being called the vendors who we'll be working with. But also if we need to integrate data or export data, they will also sometimes be called our if we have integrated systems, we will also be naming them or referring to them as the vendors. So let's put this into a daily life situation for a clearer picture. A sponsor, being the pharmaceutical company or the client that we work with, invests in testing a drug that completed the discovery phase and proceeds into the testing of a drug in the development phase using a site. The patient is then meeting the enrollment criteria that's been set in the protocol. For example, let's say it's a diabetic or a cancer study. The enrollment criteria would be that the patient or the participant must have certain criteria. Let's take diabetic as an example, is an active diabetic person or does not have a diabetic condition or maybe different types of diabetes. At the site, being the clinic or the hospital, the investigators, also the doctor, will perform the screening test on the patient, and the information are then collected or written down by the site coordinator in this section onto a case report form, which is also known as the CRF. The information will be entered by the data entry person who will be situated at the computer, and they'll enter it into the electronic database, which were developed by the data management team and the database developer prior to the first patient visiting the site. The coordinator will be responsible then to clarify any discrepancies that is identified within the system by providing a proper query response. For example, let's say the data is entered by the data entry person. However, there has been a data entry error. The data management team will notice the error with a query that is popping up in the database, which is referred to as an auto query or a system query. Or a manual query can be raised by the person or the data manager if data is being reviewed in overview and a query or a discrepancy has been notified. The data entry person or the site coordinator will be liable to clarify and correct the data with a valid reason for correcting it. Sometimes it could have resulted in and due to an obvious entry error, so then the data entry person can be able to correct it. However, sometimes the site coordinator's input will be required for support, or even as far as the CRA who is at site to provide clarification. In this way, the clinical data management team are the gatekeepers to ensure the safety of the participant from the start of the study. So let's dive a little bit deeper. With the initial receiving of the final protocol, the study startup phase of the study can actually start. With planning. One back, sorry about that. The clinical data management team are comprehensive and include a complete range of services from planning, wherein we work to develop a data management plan. We have SOPs and work practices to work by. However, our data management plan is our guideline that keeps everything together as agreed on with the sponsor. The ECRF specifications documents are compiled as the building block of the database from the protocol. The case report forms, also known as the CRF, are designed in the database and shared with the sites to enter the patient data collected at the site onto the CRF, which is known as our source data. The annotated CRF is a combination of the CRF, including variables or codes that's consistent with the ECRF specifications document and shared with the statistical programming team for the preparation of their output. The clinical data management team never has a dull moment. There are multiple databases and environments we work in. We don't believe in a one-size-fits-all and can offer suggestions for databases that best fit the company and the sponsor's need and programs. We work with a lot of them to set up for sites to enter patient information into the databases based on a sponsor's decision. This allows our clients a lot of flexibility to not be tied down to the database with bells and whistles you don't need. We offer a model to fit the need of our clients based on flexibility and focus experts as data managers. Any questions on planning? We can't hear you.
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry. Yeah,
Welcome.
I'd love to ask. I mean, are you almost saying that they could go from a MongoDB to MySQL to they can actually ask for any database?
So let me explain. There are different EDC, so electronic data capture systems that are approved. So
Right.
that are 21 CFR Part 11 approved. So they can choose
Okay.
any database that's 21 CFR Part 11
Okay.
approved. And
Okay.
at the end of the day, it really comes down to cost, right? So you've got the lower complexity systems that's got fewer bells and whistles, but it comes at a cheaper price. So we'll take a non-complex phase 1 study for a cheap system. When it comes to a large system, we would go for top of the range. So then we would go for a more expensive system that's got more alert triggers in, that's more reporting capabilities, basically.
For long term, yes.
That you have to support almost 21 different systems. Are they radically different? Are they all SQL, or how different
They
are
are
they?
all more or less the same. So all of them are built off of SQL at the end of the day. So it's different, but it's the same.
Okay, great. So okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Doreen. So, but how would the site then know what to enter where? The clinical data management team compile an ECRF completion guideline that share instructions with the sites and are regularly updated with clear instructions to how, when, and where data needs to be entered. We also do the complete database setup and testing, including all the UATs. UATs is to test all scenarios on the created pages by entering dummy or test data into the fields and testing all possible entries of the page to ensure that it is working correctly for live data once that hits the database, but also to make sure that the quality and the accuracy of data that has been entered will be in sync. Within each of the forms in the database, an edit check is also created. That is a query that will fire or pop up, which has also been spoken about, which we have a system query, which is an auto query built in the system, whereas the manual query is the one that we will manually need to raise, or the CRA can even raise manually within the system. An edit check programming and testing document is then compiled from a template, but specific to each study to ensure that all the fields applicable to the checks are in place. Manual listings, or also called SAS listings, yes, okay, are programmed listings that we used for data review to be performed across multiple forms. Say, for example, we need to check for a discrepancy or a mismatch between the adverse event form and the concomitant medications form. We say a patient had a headache and they received miprodol for that. So we would expect the miprodol to be listed on the concomitant medications form, and we will cross-check that against the adverse event form. In that case, we can actually have a SAS listing programmed to show the output of these two forms in one with discrepancies. When tests like ECG or electrocardiogram, the lab blood test, pharmacokinetics are performed at the site and the results are then sent to a lab. We refer to them as our vendors, and a third-party reconciliation will be performed by the clinical data management team to ensure that the data that is collected are consistent with what has been received by the vendor. This is also done on a monthly basis or as per agreement stipulated in the data transfer agreement, also signed off between the sponsor, the team, the data management team, as well as the vendor. This will also show us the flow of the data for the reconciliations and the recurrence thereof, especially closer to deliverables and up to database lock. Then also we do a randomization module and a coding setup, also supported and involving our RT specialist and coding team. Coding, meaning for an adverse event, we will be using a MEDRA and a WHO dictionaries. We will ensure that the dictionaries do talk with the data that is being entered in the database, and our coder will be involved to ensure that coding terms that should auto-code are auto-coding correctly, but also those that does not auto-code do trigger into a non-coded, and we need to manually code it or raise a query on it. Then different user roles are also being programmed by us to ensure that everyone cannot just do everything that they want, but they are restricted to the type of access that they should have. Especially very important during a blinded, unblinded study, a blinded study to ensure that the team members who is blinded to certain information will never be able to see that information and unblinded in the study trial. During the maintenance phase, our templates are really smart to reduce time and effort in the document content creation process while increasing the quality of deliverables. Our templates are developed to improve consistency, being time-saving, and quality while allowing the reuse of data across deliverables. All of this should be completed before the first patient is screened and enrolled at the site, all of the setup information. Then during our screening phase, the patient will need to comply with certain criteria as stipulated in the protocol, inclusion-exclusion criteria being met or not met. If any of these criteria are failed, the patient will need to be assigned a screen failure and not be able to participate in the study. If a patient complies to all inclusion-exclusion criteria, the patient will be randomized and included into the study trial. During the trial, the key responsibility is to ensure a daily query review and query management within the system as stipulated in the data management plan. If it's been stipulated any other way by the sponsor, say, example, they want query turnaround only to be every 72 hours, then it needs to be specifically stipulated here. But the KPI, Key Performance Index, requests us to perform a query turnaround of 24 hours. And that's, of course, to the best of the patient's safety. Then we also perform monthly manual listing reviews, reconciliations, but also coding, unless it's been differently stipulated in the data management plan for coding. And then upon every round of coding, if coding needs to be approved by the sponsor, it will be sent in sponsor listings to them for their approval and coding to be kept up to date at all times. This is also including our SAE reconciliation and, yes, the manual listing reviews. Should it happen and a change in protocol occurs, we call it a protocol amendment, and it has any impact onto the database, an post-production change request needs to be performed. The issue, the request, and the impact of this change should be assessed and shared with the sponsor prior to us proceeding with any updates on the database and implementing any of the changes. A full UAT will be performed on this updates to ensure that the updates are done correctly prior to pushing, we call it moving from the test into the live, pushing the database live and having this impacts onto the live data. Sometimes it can happen that the updates that needs to occur have an impact on already entered data. So that needs to be communicated to the sponsors well in advance before a post-production change is initiated. In the study, the clinical data manager, also known as the lead data manager or the data team lead, is the main point of contact for the internal and the external team. Depending on the size of the study, the DTL will have resources assigned to act to being mentored, but also people with a little bit less experience or people with more experience in certain areas to support with discrepancy review, manual listing reviews, reconciliation, or even supporting in the UAT of the database during build and update.
Apologies, Carol.
Yes.
Before we move on, I just want to check how are we doing on time. I think Carol is about halfway through her presentation at the moment, so just want to make sure that we've got enough time and that we really focus our presentation for you today.
Just that. So yeah, typically. Quite a few of the people will remain until you complete, but there may be some that drop off.
Okay.
We do keep the recording so that people can come back and go through the recording to get to the end. So, and I don't know if there's anyone. I don't know if there's anyone that has any questions just before, or we can keep going. Fantastic. Let's keep going. But
thank you so much. Yes, it's so nice to share and to share the experience, the love on the industry. So let's keep going. Yeah, a DTL's responsibility is to ensure and to coordinate all the study activities from study startup all the way to close out of the study and eventually into database lock. So the DTL will plan accordingly to meet timelines, documentation, completion, accuracy, and manage all of the deliverables on a project. The DTL will also be the team driver and the study process driver, taking ownership and accountability, proactively identify any potential risks, and leading by example. We work close with the database developer, if not the DTL themselves, the stats programmer, the biostatistical team, and we support the medical writing team after database lock with questions and provide clarifications. The DTL will also support the project manager on the study and ensure open communication on timelines, risks, actions, and decisions during a sponsor and a client call. We work close with the vendor point of contact to ensure consistency between the database and the vendor files. During this study, we perform a quality gate review regularly, quarterly in our instance, this is being performed by independent members, also to ensure that a quality of the subjects is being thoroughly checked for quality in accordance with our SOPs, work practices, study documents, and that all the findings are reported and quality are always kept high. If anything is found in the process of quality gate review, it can be proactively resolved and a note to file or a deviation can be placed in support of this to ensure the detail are in place for future reference. During study closeout, all the data should be cleaned, queries closed, coding terms all coded, reviewed and approved, and the database ready for lock. This includes all listing reviews, reconciliations with 0 open discrepancies, all issues closed. Finally, database lock can occur and the closeout activities will be completed. A database extract will be shared with all final vendor transfer files with the programming statistical team for them to proceed with the SDTM data output, tables and listing preparations to be shared with the biostatistical team. Any questions at this stage? Okay. But what makes us unique and passionate about our industry? Well, our team has a strong portfolio of therapeutic area expertise, only showing a small selection of them on the screen. Our values and culture align within our departments, and internal customer relationships can be built so strong based on the unity of values, vision, and our mission. It is the vision of MMS to keep pace with technology, industry trends, and regulatory requirements while staying competitive and being solution-focused provider for clients. The Center of Excellence will be utilized to strengthen cross-functional integration in service delivery. MMS moved to the next level of the service maturity model. We support sharing of knowledge, and they provide service owners and internal cross-functional teams with the support for implementing the recommended best practices. We also provide focused approaches to productivity and competitiveness. But what makes us exceptional is we love what we do. We have a passion for our day-to-day work. We think out of the box. We collaborate as a team. We make fast decisions. We're knowledgeable about our work. Thus, we feel confident in taking full ownership and deliver above expectation. Having a team with the same passion allows us the opportunity to provide support on our projects across the time zone on a 24-hour clock. We work with and function as one. We make our teams exceptional with continuous collaboration towards one goal, success. A key factor to our quality and success is our ongoing effort in the area of employee engagement. We have some of the best rates in our industry as we strive very hard to find the right fit for our colleague based on our expertise and interests. Not all colleagues may be interested in a data management role. Much of our staff globally is scientifically very senior. We strive to find the right balance for each individual to pursue their passion while fulfilling their job commitments. Our organization promotes soul, sense of urgency, and leadership at every level and empowers our colleagues to be leaders. We understand the work of and offer best practices that create successful partnerships. Our company culture fosters teamwork, collaboration, and process improvements. Our company is organized around and expects our teams to bring client-centric innovations and enhanced processes year over year. Our company core values include soul. Our company, we are proud of the work that we do and have a satisfied customer score of 97%, recommending MMS to one of their peers. Becoming part of our industry, clinical data management personnel have a variety of educational backgrounds and professional experiences since the department is wide and has different requirements. Most have a minimum master's degree in life sciences, computer science, or engineering. It is best to have developers, programmers with programming, computer science, or engineering backgrounds, while as core data management team works with different paramedical life science backgrounds. However, the background cannot be limited to these, as data management also needs writing skills to develop their documents. The candidate's general skills must be quite strong in clinical data management. You must be quite vigilant with data, as each case can slightly differ. Some companies do quickly give a check on these skills during interview without prior notice. They check to see how observant you are simply by moving you from one room to the other and asking, what color pen were at the desk before you moved? They will keep checking to see how attentive listener you are. Your communication will be addressing questions on the interview panel, and that will be judged. Your command on English and problem solving nature might be tested too. There might be some set quiz related grammar, logical reasoning, and decision-making skills, as these general skills means a lot while working in the clinical data management, just to name a few. But now you might be thinking, what if I don't have everything that they're looking for? And that's been said, but I do not have the education to become part of this workforce and data management family. Well, I have great news for you. As our leadership supports continuous learning of our colleagues and increased engagement with our sponsored partners. Thus, we have an MMS Academy data management and other courses that offers opportunity to grow your knowledge and empower you with the sufficient information to join new opportunities within a clinical data management industry. Whether you're a student, a recent graduate, a work professional, furthering your education can broaden your appeal to employers and have a dramatic effect on your career. At MMS Academy, we believe in catering to the next generation of scientists, expanding learning beyond offices and classrooms. That's why we offer relevant courses. We have a hands-on learning platform, Global Online. It's been created by subject matter experts and have an award-winning global CRO, MMS Academy, empowering students. We're around the world with critical and demand knowledge, and it's needed to go beyond the industry of pharmaceutical. So let's make the best decision for you. Take the next 5 steps. Make the best decision for you. Trust your instinct. Establish a circle of trust. Take your time. Ask questions. And remember, practice makes perfect. So if you have a growth and positive mindset, is an opportunity seeker for personal and professional development, enjoy having a work-life balance and the possibility to work from home in our modern world, would enjoy empowerment opportunities and invest in an industry growth experience with a self-satisfying rate, then clinical data management might just be for you. Thank you so much. I'm opening up the floor to some questions, and yes, really hope to hear some more interesting questions.
Carol, thank you very much. I think Carolyn asked a really nice question in terms of it really seems like you are with all the programming, with all the data work, and it's almost by clinical test, you are very heavily dependent on technology and data. I mean, it seems like it's one of the core skills that you have to have in your organization.
Yes, I think technology definitely an important factor, you know, I mean, with internet services, having a proper computer to work on. And this is the modern world, and that is why it's so lovely to stipulate in our modern world, because we went next level with being home-based. You can work from where you are all around the world. So that definitely offers a lot of opportunities to incoming data management team that wants to go into clinical data management. And you don't need to be set at a site. You can literally go from home. The only requirements is that you definitely need to have the flexibility of technology, a good internet service line. Yes, Doreen, any
Understand.
add-ons?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I almost did my Afrikaans there. Don't know if you picked up on that, but at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if you look at clinical data management, it's a lot less clinical and a lot more technical, right? So I think that that's what Carolyn alluded to. the pharmaceutical industry really does rely heavily on our technology and on programming processes.
Yes.
Carolyn, is there something more that you'd like to ask?
Caroline, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I can't hear you either.
No.
Oh, I
Who
still
can't
can't
hear?
hear.
Hi.
Yes,
there
we can
there
hear
you
you.
go.
I'm using a combination of my phone and my laptop. Yeah, no, just as Carol was going through her presentation, and just the range of data management and interventions that you have made me think, gee, this is, I wasn't thinking just only in terms of if you want to work as part of the company. I was thinking more in terms of just generally your business processes are incredibly reliant on both technology and obviously a good data management. I didn't actually realize that up until this point. So it was a really interesting presentation for me. Thank
So
you.
data management is really the building block, right? Without proper data management, your trial really is only as good as your database, and your database starts with your data manager.
Yes.
So I think that's really the key point when it comes to clinical research. Your data management is your building block for that.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely, Doreen. I agree with you because the data manager understands the importance of data and data quality, data reliability, data processing. So if you have that, the clinical aspects can just be added on. Yeah, just to give you, I think it's listening from Howard earlier. I think the base is steady with data management. I think the areas is just elaborating.
So that was an interesting question now, because we certainly are battling both from DAMA as an organization to ensure that we get good data management training within the universities, within the different areas. So you're having to probably upskill quite a lot before people become comfortable within the environment to operate with the reference data and all these different areas. There must be quite a process that you go through in with the academy in terms of getting them ready.
And that's exactly why we started the academy, because it was difficult to get people into the organization and then get them ready to actually start to work. So it used to take months of training before you can actually have someone onboarded to a study. And in order to kind of make the burden on the mentor a little bit less, we started the academy so that we can get them through online courses first. And then move into the mentoring and hopefully scale back some of that more intensive work that we have to do up front.
And I'm assuming that you do your data management training very, very focused on what you need within the clinical trial. So it's not like, oh, let's start on page 1 of the DMBOK. I'm not sure if you...
It's focused to what we need to get out of it. So it's not going to take you through the generalities of it. It's really it starts with a focus on our industry.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But and it's also supported with nice shows and examples, but also with a great quiz. So for the participant to know that they can engage with the specific people out there, the members that can support them, but also when they did not engage with someone, that they truly understand what they just went through.
Yeah, I think when it comes to training in our industry overall, I mean, you struggle to find opportunities when you do get training to actually do the physical practice rounds, right, before you start working. I think that's the important piece that we're also missing. You've got all of this theory, but you don't actually have the opportunity to put that into practice.
So maybe just to open up to the floor, I know that I've been asking a lot of the questions and JG disappeared. Di, you asked 1 or 2. Are there any more questions from people that are interested in this area? Just to give somebody else a chance to ask. Me and Mayela and Yes,
We've got a
Donna.
hand.
Yes.
Hi, I'm here. Well, how is for me it's really new. All of these kind of things because this is from oil and gas industry, and
Okay.
which yes, for exploration and production of hydrocarbon, and in that industry, the data management is really a core business, okay? Because we manage many kind of data. Oil and gas industry produce a lot of data, huge amount of data, any kind of data. So for me, this I from my expertise, I like a data evangelist because I like data, no? And I think the data is a present, is a future, is a past. You can see all of this kind of data in data. But this for me is really new. Okay.
There's data management in every industry. I think that is what it comes down to, right? I think if you look at any profession, at the core of it is data management.
Yes, exactly. That's my point. That if we are clear about what is data management, what that means, we can just intend to work in many other areas, okay? Any other businesses, and just and try to know the business rules and the type of data, because if you have your mind structured with data management, I think you can go through that business. Okay.
Yes.
This is my point of view.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's as wide as you put it.
Yeah,
It's
as
where
broad
you
as
put
you
it.
apply it at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like you said,
Yeah.
Carol.
Yeah, definitely. Di, you have a question? Your hand is up.
Thank you, Carol, and
Welcome.
thank you for a great presentation, and thank you, Doreen, for popping in and answering questions.
Yes.
Being the side support.
Yeah, my passion is data management. It's really the education part of it that excites me. So I'm excited about your academy. And yeah, I've been doing quite a lot of training for a while, and I've enjoyed that. But I've had a yearn to kind of go back to basics. So I was wondering, where do you start with these people in their in the academy?
So we currently are busy with our courses. So the first course that we've got really starts at the start, at the basics as to what is clinical drug development and taking it through step by step, really from the very initial task that you'll start to do on a study. So it's very broad. It starts at, you have to have no experience in order to start the first course.
And if I may just ask as well, where do you start from a data perspective?
Yeah, so the data perspective, I think you'll still start in that module. The first, I guess, 2 modules won't be applicable. But from around module 3 onwards, it would be data focused. So from there onwards, it would really be applicable to a data manager that's got prior experience as well.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And just to answer with regards to a question in the chat, is it open to the public? Yes, absolutely. And feel free to browse into the MMS Academy website, go check into MMS Holdings website, and we have exciting things there. It's not only data management courses, but there's actually medical writing and a lot more courses that you can actually enroll into the MMS Academy. So yeah, we are very excited about that.
Yeah, there's also a course on programming. So if you're a data manager, you can actually do the programming course as well. I think the only prerequisite for that course is SAS base. You need to have a SAS base course. So if you've got SAS base, then you can do the programming course as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Doreen, for mentioning that.
All right.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions? Dumi has asked, Dumi, are the courses rated according to NQF categories?
No, not at the moment. So we are trying to partner with some of the universities in South Africa. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get accredited with one of the universities. We're still working on this with WITS over the last couple of years. So at this point, it's not an NQF categorized course.
Yes, but this will definitely benefit you when you do and having this on your CV into any other CRO. This will definitely be beneficial, having the data management background already and just adding that little bit of clinical to your CV.
And that was a question that I wanted to ask. How many CROs are there in South Africa?
I counted 13 in Bloemfontein alone. In Bloemfontein, we've got all of the big international CROs, right? So if you look at IQVIA, IQVIA is a Forbes 50 company. They're based in Bloemfontein. There's Parexel, large CRO worldwide. Do work for Pfizer, for all of your large pharmaceutical companies. You've got Syneos, Bioforum. There's 13, but all of the large ones do have a presence in South Africa.
Yes.
And what made Bloemfontein so special? I mean, I'm not trying to suggest that it's not special, but why is there this sort of hub
So it's a funny story.
Say
actually.
they have this joke about Bloemfontein that you cry twice, once when you arrive and once when you leave.
Yeah, so with Bloemfontein, I think the history really stems from where IQVIA started and where the industry in South Africa started. So there used to be a small firm called Clin Data, and Clin Data did some work for some pharmaceutical companies, etc. And at a point when IQVIA wanted to expand to South Africa, so this is now pre-2006. So this is, when did IQVIA actually become IQVIA? It's long ago and far away. They decided instead of starting a new IQVIA firm here, they're going to buy out Clin Data in Bloemfontein. And from there onwards, the industry just kind of boomed here. And because of the university and having a lot of graduates, it feeds the industry constantly over here.
Nice. That's very nice.
It's constantly growing. I cannot even say how much it grew in Bloemfontein, but not only Bloemfontein, even in South Africa as a whole and in the world. I mean, I think everywhere, even the India offices, they grow. So the clinical data management area is as far as you can think. I think there will always be availability in jobs in our industry.
As long as there's disease, there will be data management. And I think I always joke, I think we're the only industry that actually got a raise in COVID time. So we got increases where the rest of the world shut down.
Wow, fantastic.
A lot, yes.
That's amazing.
So yeah, we are the modern world, definitely.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions? I know we're getting close to 25 past. It's fantastic to see so many people still hanging around. Any more questions from the floor? We have a few of our friends from Saudi, and I was wondering if they know of anything, any CROs in Saudi. Is that, I'm sure there's some work like that happening in Saudi. There must be. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any last comments from Carol and Doreen?
Doreen, you're welcome to go first.
All right, well, I am the side partner, but I'll go first. So just thank you so much for the opportunity to present here on your forum today. It was lovely to kind of join this, and we would like to join in future as well to hear about some other industries in data management.
Fantastic. We'll certainly keep you invited.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, please do. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And thank you for hanging around for a little longer. Debbie, you were spot on for scheduling it longer. Thank you for that. And thank you for the engagement and the questions. It's really lovely to have such a engaged audience. And thank you for the opportunity. And do feel free to pop in to ask questions. You're welcome to reach out to myself, to Doreen. I've got even another data manager expert on the call, is Renal, and feel free to reach out to us. We're there to support. We're there to answer questions. If you do find anything a little bit later that you thought, oh, damn, I should have asked that, feel free to pop in and ask. We're there to support. We're there to give you answers. And thank you so much for listening in, and have a lovely day.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks, really appreciate it.
Thank you all so much.
All right.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank
Do
you. We'll
take
definitely
care.
be
Okay.
bringing you back.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye-bye.